Chapter 26.
The dwelling itself you shall make out of sheets woven of fine linen twined and of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, with cherubim embroidered on them. The length of each shall be 28 cubits, and the width 4 cubits. All the sheets shall be of the same size. 5 of the sheets are to be sewed together, edge to edge, and the same for the other 5. Make loops of violet yarn along the edge of the end sheet in one set, and the same along the edge of the end sheet in the other set. There are to be 50 loops along the edge of the end sheet in the first set, and 50 loops along the edge of the corresponding sheet in the second set, and so place that the loops are directly opposite each other. Then make 50 clasps of gold with which to join the 2 sets of sheets, so that the dwelling forms one whole. Also make sheets woven of goat hair to be used as a tent covering over the dwelling. 11 such sheets are to be made. The length of each shall be 30 cubits, and the width 4 cubits. All 11 sheets shall be of the same size. Sew 5 of the sheets, edge to edge, into one set, and the other 6 sheets into another set. Use the 6th sheet double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops along the edge of the end sheet in one set, and 50 loops along the edge of the sheet in the second set. Also make 50 bronze clasps, and put them into the loops to join the tent into one whole. There will be an extra half sheet of tent covering, which shall be allowed to hang down over the rear of the dwelling. Likewise, the sheets of the tent will have an extra cubit's length to be left hanging down on either side of the dwelling to protect it. Over the tent itself, you shall make a covering of ram skin dyed red, and above that, a covering of tahash skins. You shall make boards of acacia wood as walls for the dwelling. The length of each board is to be 10 cubits, and the width 1.5 cubits. Each board shall have 2 arms that shall serve to fasten the boards in line. In this way, all the boards of the dwelling are to be made. Set up the boards of the dwelling as follows: 20 boards on the south side, with 40 silver pedestals under the 20 boards, so that there are 2 pedestals under each board and its 2 arms. 20 boards on the other side of the dwelling, the north side, with their 40 silver pedestals, 2 under each board. 6 boards for the rear of the dwelling to the west, and 2 boards for the corners at the rear of the dwelling. These 2 shall be double at the bottom, and likewise double at the top to the first ring. That is how both boards in the corners are to be made. Thus, there shall be in the rear 8 boards, with their 16 silver pedestals, 2 pedestals under each board. Also make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on the one side of the dwelling, 5 for those on the other side, and 5 for those at the rear toward the west. The center bar at the middle of the boards shall reach across from end to end. Plate the boards with gold, and make gold rings on them as holders for the bars, which are also to be plated with gold. You shall erect the dwelling according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. You shall have a veil woven of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of fine linen twined with cherubim embroidered on it. It is to be hung on 4 gold-plated columns of acacia wood, which shall have hooks of gold, and shall rest on 4 silver pedestals. Hang the veil from clasps. The Ark of the Commandments you shall bring inside, behind this veil which divides the holy place from the Holy of Holies. Set the propitiatory on the Ark of the Commandments in the Holy of Holies. Outside the veil you shall place the table and the lampstand, the latter on the the south side of the dwelling, opposite the table, which is to be put on the north side. For the entrance of the tent, make a variegated curtain of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of fine linen twined. Make 5 columns of acacia wood for this curtain. Have them plated with gold, with their hooks of gold, and cast 5 bronze pedestals for them.
Chapter 27.
You shall make an altar of acacia wood on a square, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. It shall be 3 cubits high. At the 4 corners there are to be horns, so made that they spring directly from the altar. You shall then plate it with bronze. Make pots for removing the ashes, as well as shovels, basins, forks, and fire pans, all of which shall be bronze. Make a grating of bronze network for it, this to have 4 bronze rings, 1 at each of its 4 corners. Put it down around the altar on the ground. This network is to be half as high as the altar. You shall also make poles of acacia wood for the altar, and plate them with bronze. These poles are to be put through the rings, so that they are on either side of the altar when it is carried. Make the altar itself in the form of a hollow box, just as it was shown you on the mountain. You shall also make a court for the dwelling. On the south side the court shall have hangings 100 cubits long, woven of fine linen twined, with 20 columns and 20 pedestals of bronze. The hooks and bands of the columns shall be of silver. On the north side there are to be similar hangings, 100 cubits long, with 20 columns and 20 pedestals of bronze. The hooks and bands of the columns shall be of silver. On the west side, across the width of the court, there shall be hangings, 50 cubits long, with 10 columns and 10 pedestals. The width of the court on the east side shall be 50 cubits. On one side there shall be hangings to the extent of 15 cubits, with 3 columns and 3 pedestals. On the other side there shall be hangings to the extent of 15 cubits, with 3 columns and 3 pedestals. At the entrance of the court there shall be a variegated curtain, 20 cubits long, woven of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of fine linen twined. It shall have 4 columns and 4 pedestals. All the columns around the court shall have bands and hooks of silver, and pedestals of bronze. The enclosure of the court is to be 100 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 5 cubits high. Fine linen twined must be used, and the pedestals must be of bronze. All the fittings of the dwelling, whatever be their use, as well as all its tent pegs, and all the tent pegs of the court must be of bronze. You shall order the Israelites to bring you clear oil of crushed olives to be used for the light, so that you may keep lamps burning regularly. From evening to morning, Aaron and his sons shall maintain them before the Lord in the meeting tent. Outside the veil which hangs in front of the commandments, this shall be a perpetual ordinance for the Israelites throughout their generations.
Chapter 28.
From among the Israelites have your brother Aaron together with his sons Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar brought to you, that they may be my priests. For the glorious adornment of your brother Aaron you shall have sacred vestments made. Therefore to the various expert workmen, whom I have endowed with skill, you shall give instructions to make such vestments for Aaron, as will set him apart for his sacred service as my priest. These are the vestments they shall make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a brocaded tunic, a mitre, and a sash. In making these sacred vestments, which your brother Aaron and his sons are to wear in serving as my priests, they shall use gold, violet, purple, scarlet yarn, and fine linen. The ephod they shall make of gold thread, and of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, embroidered on cloth of fine linen twined. It shall have a pair of shoulder straps joined to its two upper ends. The embroidered belt on the ephod shall extend out from it, and like it, be made of gold thread, of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, and of fine linen twined. Get 2 onyx stones, and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 on the other stone, in the order of their birth. As a gem cutter engraves a seal, so shall you have the 2 stones engraved with the names of the sons of Israel, and then mounted in gold filigree work. Set these 2 stones on the shoulder straps of the ephod as memorial stones of the sons of Israel. Thus Aaron shall bear their names on his shoulders as a reminder before the Lord. Make filigree rosettes of gold, as well as 2 chains of pure gold. Twist it like cords and fasten the cord-like chains to the filigree rosettes. The breastpiece of decision you shall also have made, embroidered like the ephod with gold thread and violet, purple, and scarlet yarn on cloth of fine linen twined. It is to be square when folded double, a span high and a span wide. On it you shall mount 4 rows of precious stones. In the first row, a carnelian, a topaz, and an emerald. In the second row, a garnet, a sapphire, and a beryl. In the third row, a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. In the fourth row, a chrysolite, an onyx, and a jasper. These stones are to be mounted in gold filigree work, 12 of them to match the names of the sons of Israel, each stone engraved like a seal with the name of one of the 12 tribes. When the chains of pure gold, twisted like cords, have been made for the breastpiece, you shall then make 2 rings of gold for it, and fasten them to the 2 upper ends of the breastpiece. The gold cords are then to be fastened to 2 rings at the upper ends of the breastpiece, the other 2 ends of the cords being fastened in front to the 2 filigree rosettes, which are attached to the shoulder straps of the ephod. Make 2 other rings of gold, and put them on the 2 lower ends of the breastpiece, on its edges that faces the ephod. Then make 2 more rings of gold, and fasten them to the bottom of the shoulder straps next to where they join the ephod in front, just above its embroidered belt. Violet ribbons shall bind the rings of the breastpiece to the rings of the ephod, so that the breastpiece will stay right above the embroidered belt of the ephod and not swing loose from it. Whenever Aaron enters the sanctuary, he will thus bear the names of the sons of Israel on the breastpiece of decision over his heart as a constant reminder before the Lord. In this breastpiece of decision, you shall put the Urim and Thummim, that they may be over Aaron's heart whenever he enters the presence of the Lord. Thus he shall always bear the decisions for the Israelites over his heart in the Lord's presence. The robe of the ephod you shall make entirely of violet material. It shall have an opening for the head in the center, and around this opening there shall be a selvage, woven as at the opening of a shirt to keep it from being torn. All around the hem at the bottom you shall make pomegranates, woven of violet, purple, and scarlet yarn, and fine linen twined, with gold bells between them. First a gold bell, then a pomegranate, and thus alternating all around the hem of the robe. Aaron shall wear it when ministering, that its tinkling may be heard as he enters and leaves the Lord's presence in the sanctuary, else he will die. You shall also make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it, as on a seal engraving, sacred to the Lord. This plate is to be tied over the mitre with a violet ribbon in such a way that it rests on the front of the mitre over Aaron's forehead. Since Aaron bears whatever guilt the Israelites may incur in consecrating any of their sacred gifts, this plate must always be over his forehead, so that they may find favor with the Lord. The tunic of fine linen shall be brocaded, the mitre shall be made of fine linen, the sash shall be of variegated work. Likewise, for the glorious adornment of Aaron's sons, you shall have tunics and sashes, and turbans made. With these you shall clothe your brother Aaron and his sons, anoint and ordain them, consecrating them as my priests. You must also make linen drawers for them, to cover their naked flesh from their loins to their thighs. Aaron and his sons shall wear them whenever they go into the meeting tent or approach the altar to minister in the sanctuary, lest they incur guilt and die. This shall be a perpetual ordinance for him and for his descendants.
Chapter 29.
This is the rite you shall perform in consecrating them as my priests. Procure a young bull and 2 unblemished rams. With fine wheat flour, make unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers spread with oil, and put them in a basket. Take the basket of them along with the bullock and the 2 rams. Aaron and his sons you shall also bring to the entrance of the meeting tent, and there wash them with water. Take the vestments and clothe Aaron with the tunic, the robe of the ephod itself, and the breastpiece, fastening the embroidered belt of the ephod around him. Put the mitre on his head, the sacred diadem on the mitre. Then take the anointing oil and anoint him with it, pouring it on his head. Bring forward his sons also, and clothe them with the tunics. Gird them with the sashes, and tie the turbans on them. Thus shall the priesthood be theirs by perpetual law, and thus shall you ordain Aaron and his sons. Now bring forward the bullock in front of the meeting tent. There Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on its head, then slaughter the bullock before the Lord at the entrance of the meeting tent. Take some of its blood with your finger and put it on the horns of the altar. All the rest of the blood you shall pour out at the base of the altar, all the fat that covers its inner organs, as well as the lobe of its liver and its 2 kidneys, together with the fat that is on them, you shall take and burn on the altar. But the flesh and hide and offal of the bullock you must burn up outside the camp, since this is a sin offering. Then take one of the rams, and after Aaron and his sons have laid their hands on its head, slaughter it. The blood you shall take and splash on all sides of the altar. Cut the ram into pieces. Its inner organs and shanks you shall first wash, and then put them with the pieces and with the head. The entire ram shall be burned on the altar, since it is a holocaust, a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. After this, take the other ram, and when Aaron and his sons have laid their hands on its head, slaughter it. Some of its blood you shall take and put up on the tip of Aaron's right ear, and on the tips of his sons' right ears, and on the thumbs of their right hands, and the great toes of their right feet. Splash the rest of the blood on all sides of the altar. Then take some of the blood that is on the altar, together with some of the anointing oil. Sprinkle this on Aaron and his vestments, as well as on his sons and their vestments, that his sons and their vestments may be sacred. Now, from this ram you shall take its fat, its fatty tail, the fat that covers its inner organs, the lobe of its liver, its 2 kidneys, with the fat that is on them, and its right thigh, since this is the ordination ram. Then, out of the basket of unleavened food that you have set before the Lord, you shall take 1 of the loaves of bread, 1 of the cakes made with oil, and 1 of the wafers. All these things you shall put into the hands of Aaron and his sons, so that they may wave them as a wave offering before the Lord. After you have received them back from their shall burn them on top of the holocaust on the altar as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Finally, take the breast of Aaron's ordination ram and wave it as a wave offering before the Lord. This is to be your own portion. Thus shall you set aside the breast of whatever wave offering is waved, as well as the thigh of whatever raised offering is raised up. Whether this be the ordination ram, or anything else belonging to Aaron or to his sons, such things are due to Aaron and his sons from the Israelites by a perpetual ordinance as a contribution. From their peace offerings too, the Israelites shall make a contribution, their contribution to the Lord. The sacred vestments of Aaron shall be passed down to his descendants, that in them they may be anointed and ordained. The descendant who succeeds him as priest and who is to enter the meeting tent to minister in the sanctuary shall be clothed with them for 7 days. You shall take the flesh of the ordination ram and boil it in a holy place. At the entrance of the meeting tent, Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket. They themselves are to eat of these things by which atonement was made at their ordination and consecration, but no layman may eat of them, since they are sacred. If some of the flesh of the ordination sacrifice or some of the bread remains over on the next day, this remnant must be burned up. It is not to be eaten, since it is sacred. Carry out all these orders in regard to Aaron and his sons, just as I have given them to you. 7 days you shall spend in ordaining them, sacrificing a bullock each day as a sin offering to make atonement. Thus also shall you purge the altar in making atonement for it. You shall anoint it in order to consecrate it. 7 days you shall spend in making atonement for the altar and in consecrating it. Then the altar will be most sacred, and whatever touches it will become sacred. Now, this is what you shall offer on the altar: 2 yearling lambs as the sacrifice established for each day. 1 lamb in the morning, and the other lamb at the evening twilight. With the first lamb there shall be 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil of crushed olives, and, as its libation, 1/4 of a hin of wine. The other lamb you shall offer at the evening twilight with the same cereal offering and libation as in the morning. You shall offer this as a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Throughout your generations this established holocaust shall be offered before the Lord at the entrance of the meeting tent, where I will meet you and speak to you. There at the altar I will meet the Israelites, hence it will be made sacred by my glory. Thus I will consecrate the meeting tent and the altar, just as I also consecrate Aaron and his sons to be my priests. I will dwell in the midst of the Israelites and will be their God. They shall know that I, the Lord, am their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, so that I, the Lord their God, might dwell among them.
Chapter 30.
For burning incense you shall make an altar of acacia wood, with a square surface 1 cubit long, 1 cubit wide, and 2 cubits high, with horns that spring directly from it. Its grate on top, its walls on all 4 sides, and its horns you shall plate with pure gold. Put a gold molding around it. Underneath the molding you shall put gold rings, 2 on one side and 2 on the opposite side, as holders for the poles used in carrying it. Make the poles 2 of acacia wood and plate them with gold. This altar you are to place in front of the veil that hangs before the Ark of the Commandments, where I will meet you. On it Aaron shall burn fragrant incense, morning after morning when he prepares the lamps, and again in the evening twilight when he lights the lamps. He shall burn incense. Throughout your generations this shall be the established incense offering before the Lord. On this altar you shall not offer up any profane incense, or any holocaust or cereal offering, once a year with the blood of the atoning sin offering. This altar is most sacred to the Lord.
The Lord also said to Moses,
When you take a census of the Israelites who are to be registered, each one, as he is enrolled, shall give the Lord a forfeit for his life, so that no plague may come upon them for being registered. Everyone who enters the registered group must pay a half shekel, according to the standard of the sanctuary shekel, 20 gerahs to the shekel. This payment of a half shekel is a contribution to the Lord. Everyone of 20 years or more who enters the registered group must give this contribution to the Lord. The rich need not give more, nor shall the poor give less than a half shekel in this contribution to the Lord, to pay the forfeit for their lives. When you receive this forfeit money from the Israelites, you shall donate it to the service of the meeting tent, that there it may be the Israelites' reminder before the Lord of the forfeit paid for their lives.
The Lord said to Moses,
For ablutions you shall make a bronze laver with a bronze base. Place it between the meeting tent and the altar, and put water in it. Aaron and his sons shall use it in washing their hands and feet. When they are about to enter the meeting tent, they must wash with water, lest they die. Likewise, when they approach the altar in their ministry, to offer an oblation to the Lord, they must wash their hands and feet, lest they die. This shall be a perpetual ordinance for him and his descendants throughout their generations.
The Lord said to Moses,
Take the finest spices, 500 shekels of free-flowing myrrh, half the amount, that is, 250 shekels of fragrant cinnamon, 250 shekels of fragrant cane, 500 shekels of cassia, all according to the standard of the sanctuary shekel, together with a hin of olive oil, and blend them into sacred anointing oil, perfumed ointment, expertly prepared. With this sacred anointing oil you shall anoint the meeting tent and the ark of the commandments, the table and all its appurtenances, the lampstand and all its appurtenances, the altar of incense and the altar of holocausts with all its appurtenances, and the laver with its base. When you have consecrated them, they shall be most sacred, and whatever touches them shall be sacred. Aaron and his sons you shall also anoint and consecrate as my priests. To the Israelites you shall say, as sacred anointing oil, this shall belong to me throughout your generations. It may not be used in any ordinary anointing of the body, nor may you make any other oil of a like mixture. It is sacred and shall be treated as sacred by you. Whoever prepares a perfume like this, or whoever puts any of this on a layman, shall be cut off from his kinsmen.
The Lord told Moses,
Take these aromatic substances, storax and onycha and galbanum, these and pure frankincense in equal parts, and blend them into incense. This fragrant powder, expertly prepared, is to be salted and so kept pure and sacred. Grind some of it into fine dust, and put this before the commandments in the meeting tent where I will meet you. This incense shall be treated as most sacred by you. You may not make incense of a like mixture for yourselves. You must treat it as sacred to the Lord. Whoever makes an incense like this for his own enjoyment of its fragrance shall be cut off from his kinsmen.